If we're asking the right questions, we can help rewire some of those limiting beliefs, which might sound like in that card game, right? Oh man, this always happens. I can never find the right card. Golly, we have to start the game over again. And we can shift from that limiting belief of this always happens, I can't find it, into uncovering hidden opportunities. I wonder where it is. I wonder if we're going to find it slower than last time or faster than last time. And we know what we don't like. It is so easy to know what we don't like. It is much more challenging to identify what we truly want. And so that's such a powerful, clarifying question. The next time you find yourself starting to maybe grumble and complain about something in life, or you find yourself just really unsure of what it is you want, ask yourself, be clear, ask it aloud, let your brain hear it. Put all of your sensory systems onto that question. Welcome to The Julie Holly Show, where we go from wish to reality, from dream to done. Today, we are going to be talking about the power of questions, how the right ones help unlock your very next step. Have you ever felt like you're completely stuck? You're unsure of what to do next? Maybe you're facing a big decision, or maybe you feel like you're just spinning your wheels. What if I told you that the key to moving forward isn't about having the right answer, but it's about asking the right question? That's exactly what we're talking about today, the power of asking the right questions. And we could even take that word right out there. We could just say the power of asking questions, how they shape our reality, how they unlock new possibilities, and they propel you towards the life you want. I know that some years ago, somebody asked me one of the most powerful questions. And I'm not talking about many years ago when Super Rad Steve asked me if I would marry him. I'm talking about a question where I was at an event and the event, planner, programmer came up to me and said, would you join one of these panels on stage? And that right there completely shifted everything for the conscious investor in every way, shape, and form. It launched this whole other part of my life, and it was completely unexpected. And so when I took action on that and I said yes, and then I nervously stepped out of my comfort zone and hit the stage with some other panelists and actually fielded questions and did it effectively. And then there I was, realizing I absolutely love serving people in this capacity. It changed my life. One question can completely change the trajectory of your life. So let's talk about the role of questions in shaping our lives. You see, our brain is hardwired. You know, I love our brain. Our brain loves to solve problems and loves to be able to check boxes and push it off to the side because really, ultimately, let's face it, I know that we're go-getters and everything, but we're actually pretty lazy. And we like to find the answer as fast as possible and be done. And so our brain is going to answer the questions in the lowest, easiest form possible. Maybe you have asked somebody the question like, "Hey, how was your day?" What do most people say? It's good. Pretty good. Oh yeah. No, it was terrible. But most people will answer that question in less than 5 words. Just go around, sample that for the rest of the day. Just sample that and see where it lands. 5 words or less is going to be the answer for most people. And so because our brains love to just find that quick, easy answer, check it off, let's move on. And that prevents us from like a deeper level engagement. Okay. So we can ask ourselves some limiting questions. And one of those limiting questions is like, hey, how's your day? Technically, it's not limiting, but how we handle that culturally is pretty limiting because we have some clear social norms, how people are supposed to answer. So let me pull myself out of this hole for a moment and say a limiting question might sound like this. It might sound like, why is this happening to me? Right? So we could actually kind of go inward and just be kind of boohooing, and how is that actually going to help us? Let's see what how we can reframe that into an expansive question. It now sounds like, what can I learn from this? So we shift from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this? Now we just went from like limiting, contracting into expanding and opportunity. So the right questions really matter, and they can shift us from the problem into possibility. I know that I've shared this before, but there is this period of time a couple of years ago now where little miss, my daughter and I, we were playing tons of the card game Nerds. It was around Christmas time a couple of years ago. And in playing that game, I started using this expression, the answer is right before me. And I said that because we'd come to these parts in our game where we were stuck. We were just stuck there in the game, and I noticed that if I just simply reminded myself the answer is right before me, I wonder when I'm going to find it. I wonder where it is. And I put myself in a posture of curiosity and like extracted myself from the frustration and wanting to quit and put myself into the lap of, I wonder where it is. Like, isn't this fun? This is just more like a little where's Waldo type thing at this point. And sure enough, very quickly, I would find the next move on the card table and we get into the flow of the game. And sometimes I'd help Little Miss with that. And so it's interesting that we can go from having a problem and step into powerful possibility just by shifting our perspective in the questions that we're asking, right? So we can if we're asking the right questions, we can help rewire some of those limiting beliefs, which might sound like in that card game, right? Oh man, this always happens. I can never find the right card. Golly, we have to start the game over again. And we can shift from that limiting belief of this always happens, I can't find it, into uncovering hidden opportunities. I wonder where it is. I wonder if we're going to find it slower than last time or faster than last time. I wonder if it's going to be in your hand or if it's going to be in my hand. I wonder now we've just like, we're going to find all the hidden opportunities. And when we ask the right questions, they direct all of our energy and focus toward the solution instead of towards excuses. I am going to say that again, conscious investor. Asking the right question is going to direct our energy towards solutions instead of excuses. So in the card game situation, it could be like, wow, I guess you didn't shuffle the cards very well because here we are again, right? We can make excuses or we could be looking for the solutions. I used to say when I was a public school teacher, I used to always say, every problem has a solution. And that was also one of those mantras that I just always had going in my mind. When I encountered problems, that was something that I mumbled under my breath. Every problem has a solution because it repositions our brain into looking. We get to direct it. We are the director of our brain power. And so we can now direct it towards what is the solution? Where do we want to be going? And it's amazing how quickly we can actually find what we are looking for just by that simple mental pivot. So let's talk about a few categories of questions. And I'm going to give you some examples for each of these categories of questions. And those questions will be available down in the show notes. I want to encourage you, just copy those questions, throw them into whatever you use on your phone so you can access them all the time, and just reference those questions. Try to familiarize yourself with these questions so that you're developing a practice of being able to ask really meaningful questions in the circumstances that you are in. And then you're also role modeling that for those around you. The first, I'm going to tell you the three categories, and then I'll give you some examples for each. So we have clarity questions. We're going to talk about perspective shifting questions. And then we're going to talk about action driven questions. When we are looking for clarity questions, those are the questions that are helping us get unstuck. How often have you seen, this just happens so often in my house that Super Red Steve will open any cupboard, refrigerator, anything, looking for something specific. And it's funny because I know exactly where it is. And now my son, he does the same thing. I don't know if it's like something to do with like a genetic chromosome or what, but they'll open, they'll say, "Hey, one of those where's the ketchup type thing," and I'll be like, "Oh, it's on this shelf." And da da da. I'm like, it's like I have a little Apple tracking device on it or something. I usually don't say anything anymore. I'll just give it a minute and count to 5 and then they'll find it. But it's helping those clarifying questions help us get unstuck. So we could say, what do I truly want? I shared that I was driving a couple of months ago. I was driving down to church and I was facing some challenges. And that was a question I asked. What is it I really want in this situation? So often we are so focused of on we're so focused on, well, this is happening and this person is doing that. And I don't like the way that sounds. And I don't like doing this task. And we know what we don't like. It is so easy to know what we don't like. It is much more challenging to identify what we truly want. And so that's such a powerful clarifying question. The next time you find yourself starting to maybe grumble and complain about something in life, or you find yourself just really unsure of what it is you want, ask yourself, be clear, ask it aloud, let your brain hear it. Like put all of your sensory systems onto that question, right? So we're saying it, we're hearing it. We could probably pull in some tactile type things at the same time. But ask yourself, what do I truly want? So often I ask this in coaching sessions, and clients have to pause, and we take for granted. We think we know what we want. Well, duh, I want to get that promotion, or I want to have that investment, or we think we know what we want, but we actually really aren't clear. And we need to ask, what do I truly want? I love this next clarifying question. It says, what would I do if I weren't afraid? Another way of phrasing this that I like to say is, and I asked this to one of my friends, or I shared this question with her, is, if I knew everything was going to turn out okay, how would I be acting? Like, to me, that's God has a way of taking care of all of the details that we freak out about. And so when I ask myself that question, how would I act and behave, and what would I think and believe if I knew it was all going to be okay? I show up in a completely different way. So that's a flip side of asking, what would I do if I weren't afraid? You could also ask yourself this clarifying question: if success were guaranteed, what step would I take next? Sometimes we just need to get ourselves going. We just need to take that one step. Like, life favors action. And so when we can get ourselves on the path of action, things start to flow and it becomes so much easier. All right, let's shift on over to perspective shifting questions. And these are changing how we see obstacles. So we might ask this question: what if this challenge is happening for me, not to me? And I'm sure you were like, oh, come on, Jules, you know that question. I do know that question. So I don't know why I tripped over it. It has become a much more mainstream question. And I'm so happy that more people are saying, is this happening to me? Like, for me? I don't know why I'm getting this backwards. Is this happening for me, not to me? So we've talked about this recently on the podcast. And I've put it in the newsletter as well, which, if you haven't signed up for the free newsletter, it is pure fire. And it's also a pretty personal email newsletter where I really share a lot of rich things of life and how they relate to you. And it's not just oh, hey, this is what's going on in my life, but it's like, hey, this is how I'm navigating these situations, and this might help you navigate yours. Lots of practical applications, because I'm here to help you and help you go from wish to reality, from dream to done, right? So we're not drawing the short straw, the short stick, just because something is happening. Guess what? If you are in that in between where nothing is going on, wow, count your blessings because you probably just came out of a challenging situation and you're going to go into another challenging situation. This is part of life, it's part of the refining process. It's that forging fire, that forging force that just helps us become the better version of ourselves. And so a lot of times we want to have that boo hoo. Well, guess what? That boo hoo, this is happening to me. That is our lower level lazy brain, just wanting to sit around in the comfort of our living room doing nothing. If that if that analogy doesn't resonate, go back and listen to the podcast episode on your comfort zone. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, I get it. So, all this to say is that we really need to shift that thinking and say, like, wow, what is this? What if this is happening for me? I've had so many things where it didn't look like it was the best in the moment. And then in retrospect, as I looked back in the rearview mirror, I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened so for me. In fact, one of our investments in North Carolina, it's a ground up development project and it is delayed. It is massively delayed. There's no denying that it's delayed breaking ground. But in a meeting with our team and with all the lenders and things like that recently, what I learned was what they said was like, wow, like you guys have been through a lot on this project and your willingness to see it through. I mean, like, your project has only grown and improved and gotten better. Like your returns are going to be so good because of what you've been through. So we don't know, like these things could be happening for us and more likely than not, they are. I just want to remind you that our perspective is just simply our vantage point. And so if we're having a challenging time, we just need to switch our vantage point and see if we can kind of start to see it from another perspective so that we're not in that it's happening to me type situation. All right. Another perspective shifting question that's really powerful is what's the best case scenario? So a lot of times, right? You said it in your head, I guarantee. Like, no, Julie, it's what's the worst case scenario? Yeah, just flip the script a little bit. Go to the upper level brain. Let's go to like the higher level where we're talking about the best case, not the worst case. It's easy to think about the worst case scenario, and the worst case scenario almost never happens. Our brains have great imaginations, and so like yay for our imaginations, but we tend to use them towards lower level activities. Let's take that same creativity, that same brain power that can create these really dark, scary, horrific outcomes. Let's use that same brain power and say, like, what's the best case scenario? It'll shift your perspective and elevate you really powerfully. And then we always want to be thinking about future self. Our final question in the perspective shifting is what would my future self tell me right now? A lot of times I will go to my future self and I will ask myself, well, down the road, is this thing that's bugging me or this challenge I'm facing, this one right now, is this the one? Like, do I really need to be super stressed out? Like 10, 20, 30 years from now, really, this is not going to be this huge significant thing. And so it gives us just a new perspective on things. And you might take that question another way. And I'd love to hear you take that. So make sure, shoot me a message or put a post up on socials and tag me on it. I would absolutely love that. Our final category of questions is action driven questions. So I love taking action. Super Ed Steve is like, you think something and you don't think of all the steps in between and you just start going. And he's right. And I've had to learn over the years. I'm still learning. I'm probably always going to be having to relearn, get all the steps, get all the ducks lined up in a row first. But we want to turn our insights into momentum. We don't want to just have these great ideas and let them sit there and stagnate. That will lead to success. That will lead to unfulfillment. That isn't even going to lead to success of any kind. You can't have success without satisfaction if you're not doing something, right? So we can just think, what's one small step that we can take today? We can't take all the steps in a single day. We don't need to take all the steps in a single day. We would not be prepared for the outcome if we did it all in a day for like some bigger projects, right? A lot of times we as people need to grow in that process of creating something the one step at a time. It's not just about I'm creating it one step at a time. It's I'm growing and I'm getting prepared from the inside out for the final outcome and who I'm becoming through this process. Another action driven question is, who can help me move forward? Oh, that's like one of the hardest questions for me because as much as I love helping people and I don't mind asking for help, I just don't like inconveniencing people and I value people's time. And so I'm always like, "Oh my gosh, they're geniuses. Like I don't want to waste any bit of their time. This is so important." So we do need to be saying, who can help me move forward? There's always also the book, I'm sure you've read it, Who Not How. It is a really good book if you are stuck on, well, how am I going to get this done? How do I do that? How? Stop thinking about the how because we can't know how to do everything. So we need to be thinking about who can help me? Who knows about this? Who's the expert in this? And then we can humbly receive help. And I know that you would help people too. So let's make sure that we're also giving people an opportunity to help us. Sounds crazy. So true. And the final action driven question to contemplate is, what's stopping me and is it actually real? Oh my gosh, isn't that funny? A lot of times we're holding back and it's just because we ourselves don't want to do the tough thing and go ask that question, or we just don't want to do the thing because we've created something in our mind. Well, if I ask the person that question, they might give me these answers that I don't like. So I want you to just think, like, is it actually real? So what's stopping me? Is it actually real? I wish I could do a poll on this podcast episode just to say with that one question, because I want to ask you, like, how many of us have actually had something there we've thought it in our head and it's held us back, and then we go to do the thing and it's like no big deal. I can't tell you how many times coaching clients and I've been in a session and then I'll give them the like, okay, we've worked through this very question. Like, okay, well, what's stopping you? And then we've identified it. And so I'm like, hey, go do the thing. And then literally they'll go take action. They'll go do that thing. And I'll follow up the next day or then, within the next couple of days. And sure enough, they're like, I said, so how do you feel? Like, how was it? It was no big deal. Like, the person didn't even think anything of it. And so we make these things into big, big deals. Oh my gosh, I seriously can't tell you how many times that has happened. I wanna say almost every single one of my coaching clients has been there at some point. I know I've been there also, so it's not just my coaching clients, but it's interesting being on this side of things. So, let's just talk about those, like some of the things that you can take away, hopefully, from this episode. One, remember all of the questions from the 3 categories. So, the clarity questions, the perspective shifting questions, and the action driven questions. All of those questions that I walked you through, they are all down in the show notes. Copy, paste them, put them somewhere, write them down, whatever you want to do. But I wanted to make them really easily accessible to you. And so remember that the power of your questions is really going to determine the quality of your life. And those small shifts that you make, just the small, positive negative shift that you make in those questions is going to lead to such massive breakthroughs. So you don't have to do this all at once. You can just shift ever so slightly. So for the next 24 hours, I want to give you a friendly challenge is to pay attention to the questions that you ask yourself and then say, are there any that are keeping you stuck or pushing you? Are your questions keeping you stuck or are they pushing you forward? And then choose one question from today's episode and use it to unlock the next step for yourself. Remember that your wishes are not just random dreams. They are part of the unique DNA God created you with. And the right questions will help you move from someday to today. All right. And remember, you don't have to have all the right answers right now, but you can start by asking better questions. And that's going to lead you exactly where you need to go. And where do you need to go? Well, maybe you are ready to go from dream to done and you want to join one of the wish fulfillment cohorts. Head on down to the show notes. Make sure that you either get on the wait list if it's filled up, or that you put yourself into the Tuesday or the Thursday wish fulfillment cohort. Okay. It's not a permanent fixture in your life. Well, I will take you through the framework. You will launch something. You will go from dream to done with something in your life. And when you learn that process and you start getting that street cred with yourself, start to realize, I'm unstoppable. I can go do anything. This is amazing. Okay. And you're going to be around powerful people. It's going to be just such a great 3-month period of your life. It's going to level things up. I can just speak from confidence because of what's taken place with other clients. And here's the other thing. If you have taken a wish to reality, you've already had that type of experience, remember that the Wishmaker Circle is an application-based only mastermind group. And that's such a powerful group. So you fill out an application. There might be a wait list, depends. The link is down in the show notes, but you're either going to go get onto the wait list or you're going to fill out the application for the mastermind. And then, if in review process, it's like, oh, okay, this person is definitely someone we want to pursue further, then we're going to have a one-on-one actual meeting where we can both see if this is like a really great fit for you. It's a very small, intimate circle. It's not a normal mastermind of like mastermind the way people have them these days with like 50, 200, 300 people. It is like very reduced, very limited, 15 people max. So it's going to be something for people that are massive action takers, who are living outside their comfort zone, who are unafraid to do that, who are unafraid to ask questions, to receive support, to give support. There's just a different underpinning. And so if that resonates, if you want to be in a drama-free, no gossip zone of massive action takers, then you definitely want to check out the Wishmaker Circle. All right. I appreciate you. And I'm excited for the very first episode of The Julie Holly Show, but the 574th episode on this amazing podcast journey that we have shared together. Until next time, wish it, live it, dream it, do it.